What if the word God, a word that has inspired saints and started wars, brought people to their knees in devotion and driven others into atheism, has been misunderstood from the very beginning? When I say the word God, what comes to your mind? Someone in the sky? A creator? A divine force? The interesting thing is that every person hears the same word and imagines something different. What if our understanding of God begins with a misunderstanding of the word itself, not by a little, but fundamentally? What if we have been trying to fit the infinite into a box built by a finite mind and then arguing about the shape of the box? Welcome back to Untying the Knot with Trupti. I am Trupti, and today we are exploring one of the most important and misunderstood ideas in Vedanta, the nature of God. And I want to answer a question that has divided spiritual traditions for centuries. Is God personal or impersonal? The Vedantic answer may surprise you. Let's start with a problem most of us never think about. The human intellect is a remarkable instrument. It reasons, it analyzes, it categorizes. But it has a built-in limitation. Everything the mind knows, it knows in relation to something else. Hot and cold, here and there, before and after. The mind cannot think without a framework of opposites. Now ask yourself, can such an instrument grasp something that has no opposite? Something that is not here or there, but everywhere. Yet the moment we say everywhere, we have already assumed space. Something that is not before or after, but eternal. Yet even the word eternal still makes us think in terms of time. This is the fundamental challenge. The infinite by nature transcends any label or name we assign to it. The moment we say God is this, we have limited the limitless. The moment we say God is not that, we have drawn a line when no line exists. For centuries, the word God has accumulated layers of beliefs, assumptions, and projections. We argue for it, argue against it, worship it, or reject it, often without examining what the word is actually pointing to. Both believers and atheists may be responding to the idea created by the mind rather than the truth the word attempts to point. But here's the shift. Vedanta does not stop at this problem, it offers a way through. In Advaita Vedanta, the ultimate reality is called Brahman. And Brahman is not a god among gods. It is not a supreme being sitting somewhere above the clouds. Brahman is existence itself. Pure being, pure awareness, pure bliss. These three, Satchidanand, are not qualities. They are what Brahman is. Just as fire doesn't possess heat and light, it is hot and luminous by its very nature. Brahman does not have existence. Brahman is existence. It does not have consciousness. It is pure consciousness. This is Nirgun Brahman. Brahman without attributes, without form, without personality. Pure isness. Now for many people this may sound abstract, cold even, like a philosophical concept with no heart. And this is exactly where most people get stuck. They think Advaita Vedanta is saying God is impersonal. Therefore, personal relationship with God is impossible. And love and devotion do not matter. Let's go a step deeper. Remember the limitation of the human intellect? It cannot grasp the formless infinite directly. So what happens? It reaches upward with the highest ideals it can conceive. Love, mercy, omniscience, justice, compassion, and projects those ideals onto the infinite. And what it expresses is Ishwar, the personal God. Swami Vivekananda described this beautifully. He said, Ishwar is the highest reading of Brahman through the human intellect. This is Sagun Brahman with attributes. And here is what makes Vedanta so radically inclusive. This personal God can appear in countless forms. Also the formless but personal God of the Abrahamic traditions. Human incarnations, non-human forms. One cosmic God appearing differently to different hearts. Vedanta does not say pick the right one. It says All these forms are valid readings of the same infinite. We know that the sky is colorless, yet it appears blue. The blue color is real to the observer, but it neither defines nor limits the true nature of the sky. The personal God is as real as you are, which is to say, real at the relative level, real in the world of time, space, and causation where we live our daily lives. And that is where worship belongs. That is where devotion belongs. The wave looks up and sees the vast ocean. It cannot yet know it is the ocean. And that worship is the beginning of the journey home. But here is the shift. When we truly love something, we don't want to remain distant from it. We want to know it intimately. The same is true in our relationship with God. Genuine love doesn't stop at belief. It seeks understanding. It longs to discover the truth to which the word God points. As long as we think of God as someone far away, watching us, controlling our lives from a distance, we remain separate. But Vedanta invites a much deeper relationship. It asks us to discover the divine not as something outside us, but as the truth of our own being. And with that comes responsibility. Instead of waiting for God to change our lives, we begin transforming ourselves by living in alignment with truth. That is the purpose of true religion. People often say that belief in God makes society more moral, but belief alone is not enough. Unless belief matures into understanding, it can become fear, attachment, or the hope of future rewards. It may change behavior, but it does not necessarily transform the individual. When religion is reduced to unquestioned beliefs, people naturally become attached to defending their beliefs. History shows that beliefs can divide people and even become a cause of conflict. Truth itself never fights. Facts do not argue with one another, only opinions do. Many thoughtful people today reject religion, not because they reject truth, but because they associate religion with dogma rather than inquiry. A religion rooted in inquiry and the sincere search for truth encourages understanding rather than division. Believing is easy, knowing is difficult. Inquiry demands attention, humility, and sustained effort. That is why belief often feels more attractive. But only knowledge has power to remove ignorance. Ultimately, the highest devotion is not devotion to a belief, but devotion to truth. That is the purpose of true religion. So, is God personal or impersonal? The Vedantic answer is neither and both. This is what Vivekananda called the impersonal personal. God is impersonal as existence consciousness, pure being without attributes. And God is personal as Ishvara, the cosmic personality that meets you where you are, in the language your heart understands. These are not two gods. They are two ways of seeing the same reality. Think of the ocean. In its essence, it is nothing but water, one formless and indivisible. This is Brahman. Yet on the surface, the same ocean appears as countless waves. Every wave has its own shape, height, and lifespan. To the sailor, the waves are real because they are how he relates to the ocean. Likewise, Ishvara is the form through which the devotee relates to the infinite. Brahman is the reality that every form truly is. There is a beautiful story. Lord Rama once asked Hanuman, "How do you see me?" Hanuman replied, "At the level of the body, I am your servant and you are my Lord. At the level of the individual, I am a part and you are the whole. But at the level of pure awareness, you and I are one." Advaita Vedanta embraces both Nirgun and Sagun Brahman as equally valid. Worship belongs at the level of the wave. Non-dual realization belongs at the level of the water. They are not contradictory. With this understanding, worship and dualistic devotion become the ego's love for the highest truth. Now I want to share something that may completely reframe the way you think about God. As human beings, we rely on names to identify things. We give names to people, places, objects, even to God. But names exist for those who need to communicate. The infinite has no need for a name. The moment we call the infinite God, Brahman, or the Absolute, we have already begun translating the limitless into the language of a finite mind. These words are useful, but they are only pointers. They are never the reality itself. So let's ask a different question. We say God is. That is our statement about God. We stand here, God stands there, and we declare that God exists. But if reality could speak for itself, what would it say? It would never say God is. It would simply say I am. I am is not a description. It is pure being. It is awareness knowing itself without distance, without a second, without turning itself into an object of knowledge. This is why when Moses asked for God's name in the Old Testament, the answer is I am that I am. Raman Maharshi called this one of the highest expressions of truth in the English language. Notice something remarkable. We can say I know this or I know that because there is a knower and something known. But pure awareness does not know itself as an object. It simply is. From the standpoint of the infinite, there is no second thing to know, no object to observe, no separate universe standing apart from itself. There is only being itself. This is the invitation of Advait Vedanta. Instead of imagining God as someone existing somewhere else, watching, judging, or granting wishes, it invites us to investigate the very sense of I am that is present before every thought, every belief, and every identity. That inquiry begins with a simple question. Who is the I that claims every identity? The one that says, I am this or I am that. Vedanta asks us to negate everything that can be observed. The body, the mind, the emotions, the roles, even the sense of being the doer. Whatever can be known cannot be the knower. And what remains is not another idea or belief, but the truth of who you are. Please like and subscribe. And if you are interested in going deeper, join the Vedanta Book Club. Link is in the description. In the next video, we will explore questions like, is Atma or God within us? And if God created us, who created God?